At its peak around 117 AD, the Roman Empire controlled over 5 million square kilometers, a landmass roughly the size of the modern European Union. They governed a population of 70 million people, linked by 85,000 kilometers of paved roads, and the most advanced administrative systems the ancient world had ever seen. By 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire had officially collapsed. This was a death by internal rot, a slow, systematic hollowing out of the institutions that once made Rome invincible. As the historian Edward Gibbon noted, an empire of this scale doesn't shatter in a single blow. It falls because of 1,000 days of small surrenders, each one completely invisible on its own. Those exact same invisible forces are currently dismantling modern economies, fracturing corporate structures, and hollowing out personal careers. Studying the collapse of Rome provides a highly accurate diagnostic mirror. By understanding their exact sequence of failure, we can identify and stop the structural decay in our own systems. The first fracture was the destruction of foundational loyalty. In the early days of the Republic, farmers and soldiers were the backbone of society. They had respected legal rights, fair compensation, and actual skin in the game. By the 3rd century AD, a massive wealth gap had opened. Political elites hoarded the land, forcing small farmers into poverty, while the soldiers defending the borders went unpaid. The ordinary citizens who built the empire started feeling like strangers in their own home. We see this dynamic in modern organizations today. The moment the people doing the daily, boots-on-the-ground work feel invisible to the leadership above them, the foundation cracks. To hide these structural cracks, the emperors needed cash to pay for expensive wars. They turned to a financial trick. Let's look at the Roman denarius. This chart shows the depth of deception. In 100 AD, it was 90% pure silver. By 268 AD, the government debased it so severely it contained just 5% silver. The rest was cheap filler. They borrowed from the future to fix the present. Inflation hit ordinary Romans, and trust in the system evaporated. We see this same loop today, when governments print money to mask debt, or when individuals sacrifice their core values for immediate convenience. You cannot solve a structural crisis with a financial trick. The debt of debasement always catches up. The third fracture was a hollowed-out culture. Early Rome survived because of a strict core identity. Being Roman meant civic duty, personal discipline, and taking direct responsibility for the empire. By the late empire, that shared identity had vanished. The political class grew corrupt, and the state distracted the public to mask the decay. By the 4th century, Rome scheduled over 140 public holidays a year, keeping the population entertained rather than engaged. The philosopher Seneca noted that we suffer more in imagination than in reality, but Rome's ultimate suffering came from having nothing left to believe in. Personal values act as your immune system. When those values are clear, you bend under pressure. Without them, you break. This cultural vacuum paved the way for the fourth fracture, reactive leadership. It escalated in 235 AD with Emperor Maximinus Thrax, plunging Rome into the crisis of the 3rd century. This timeline visualizes the chaos of that period. In just 49 years, Rome cycled through 26 different emperors, one new ruler every 2 years. Many lasted only months before being assassinated by their own soldiers. A revolving door of leadership destroys institutional memory. We see it in modern careers and companies that pivot strategy every quarter, reacting to immediate threats instead of executing a vision. Unstable leadership creates unstable systems. True vision requires leaders who think in decades, not days. Humans repeat patterns. Today, we face rising inequality, governments printing money to delay hard decisions, and societies fractured by endless, algorithmically driven distraction. We have one advantage over the ancient Romans. We can see the story. We have the historical awareness to identify the pattern and choose a different path. Breaking this cycle starts with a value gap audit. First, define your personal 90% silver standard, the uncompromisable core values that anchor your life. Second, ruthlessly identify where you are accepting cheap metal. Look for areas where you are trading long-term truth for short-term comfort. Build resilience by cutting out the modern public holidays, the doom scrolling and the cheap digital dopamine, and anchoring your daily actions to a vision that outlasts this week's emergencies. For those who lead teams, the task is the unglamorous, patient work of making sure the people at the bottom are seen and valued. History rhymes based on the choices we make. These systemic warnings are visible in the mirror. The only question is whether we are paying attention to the lyrics.